Hello there, dear viewers, and welcome to attaQ. My name is Jakob. I'm your host, and you're watching a attaQ episode. And in this episode, we're having a look at Crystalline Reverb. And I'm not talking about Crystalline Reverb. No, I'm talking about Crystalline Reverb. Let me start out by saying that a simple glance of Crystalline's graphical user interface, well, it will tell you a lot, but in some cases it won't, because there's something special in each and every one of these sections, and you'll miss what those are if you don't look deeper than just a surface glance, so stick with me. Now, there is this thing here that really annoys me. And boy, am I glad that this thing has a dark mode, because I'm not liking this bright mode at all. Well, with the dark mode engaged, I can now start showing you exactly what makes this reverb so good. And I actually want to start by smashing a misconception that some people are having about Baby Audio's Crystalline. Now, the misconception I'm referring to is the fact that some people have seen the word shimmer here in Crystalline and automatically drawn the conclusion that Crystalline is just like FSC Altessa, which is a shimmer reverb. And I'm here to tell you that you're absolutely wrong if you're thinking that. The typical shimmer effect that people are probably thinking about when they hear the word shimmer or see it on a reverb is that effect that you hear in music from Brian Eno or U2. So you make a feedback loop, you put a pitch shifter in it, in either a delay or a reverb, and the signal keeps feeding back into itself, pitching up higher and higher until you get that ringing, shimmering effect. Crystalline does not do this. The shimmer effect inside Crystalline is something completely different, and I will show you that if you stick around. It actually does something that most reverbs don't do. Alright, some basics. Now, you've already seen me change the color mode from light to dark with this control here. And then if we stay in this upper bar, we have the preset browser here in the middle. And there's a lot of presets in here if you don't want to mess around with the controls, but I do urge you to do that because it's a lot of fun to work with this reverb. Now, you can save your own by pressing this button and you will be prompted for a name and then you just press OK. Now, to the right here, we can see some more icons. And the one that I find really important is the icon. If you activate this, well, when touching a controller, then down in this area, there will pop up information that explains what a control is or what it does. And that's basically it. Now, as you can see, there are 7 segments inside Crystalline here. And we're gonna start by diving into the entire middle section here first. Now at the top here we have a spectrum view, and you kind of see the shape of the signal you're feeding into it, but it's not really that useful. It does look really nice though. Now beneath the spectrum view we have controls for start time and end time for the reverb tail. And this one is really interesting, and it does something I haven't seen other reverbs do on iOS. Now, I'm gonna have to use the light version to demonstrate this because the dark version doesn't display the text properly in these two buttons here. But they're gonna fix this a few days after my video comes out, so I'm not gonna focus on it too much. You see, right now I've got both of these controls set to ms, or milliseconds. And as you can see, we have up to 10 seconds of reverb time here, which is long enough to make really big, spacious reverbs. Well, there is something really neat in here, and that is that if we press the ms here, we get sync. You see, you can actually sync up the start and ending time of the reverb tail. This is awesome. When I see something like this, well, it's something I'd use all the time just to shadow drums, to have reverb take space where the drums aren't, basically. I love this feature. This is great. Now, at the bottom here, we have the output section, and in it, we have 4 controls. We've got a ducker, which basically works like a sidechain compression for the reverb tail, so whenever the signal comes in, it kind of suppresses the reverb tail. Next, we have rev, which stands for reverse. After that, we got fres, which stands for freeze. And lastly, we've got dry-wet controls. Now, the true highlight of this middle section here is that you can sync the start and end time of the reverb tail. In some reverbs, you can actually delay the reverb tail, and that basically does the same thing as the thing here at the start, but here you can sync to a tempo, which is very nice for when you're working with drums. And not only that, this reverb also does duck, freeze, and reverse all in the same plugin. And with many reverbs, you only get a few of these. Inside the reflections section, we've got 3 controls: size, sparkle, and width. And the size control gives you up to 5 different room sizes to choose from the very small to the very large. And one thing to really highlight here is that size and reverb tail length are detached from one another. They're not connected, meaning you have the ability to make huge rooms with really short tails, or tiny rooms with very long reverb tails. I love it when reverbs gives you the ability to do stuff like this, because there's so many more things you can do with a reverb. You can really get deep with experimentation. And as a sound designer, I just think that this type of functionality in a reverb, it just should be encouraged. Now, I might sound all giddy and everything as if this is something completely new, and it's not. There are other reverbs that does it, which is why I say I love it when reverbs does it. Eventide Audio's Shimmer Verb is one of them, for instance. Well, it's a good call by Baby Audio to put something like this in here. Now, the next control is Sparkle, and this is one of 2 controls that actually deals with high frequencies inside the reverb. This one makes reflections sound brighter, so it kind of emphasizes or enhances high frequencies in the reverb. This is what no sparkle sounds like, and this is what a lot of sparkle sounds like. The width control is what it says. It allows you to control the width of the reverb, and by pulling it down, you can actually make the reverb sound mono. Pulling it up to the middle where you get the circle makes it in a default state stereo, and then you can split the circle apart, truly expanding the stereo field. And to me, this kind of sounds like a Haas effect. I think that's what it is. And next, we're gonna have a look at the depth section. Now, inside the depth section, we have 3 controls: resolution, modulation, and shimmer. Now, if we start with resolution, it is what it says. It changes the resolution of the reverb and the algorithm itself. So at low setting, you're getting something very CPU efficient. The reverb becomes less heavy, but it also doesn't sound as good as it can, really, because the reverb starts sounding more metallic at low settings. However, at the highest setting, the reverb sounds full, lush, and just nicer, more luxurious, if you will. However, it does also become more CPU intensive. Reverbs are very heavy things, especially good ones. I don't know how they set this reverb up, but this is what it sounds like when you're using a lower resolution. So you get fewer delay lines or filters or however they set this up. Now, with a higher resolution, you get a fuller sounding reverb tail because there are way more delay lines or filters being used in generating the reverb. I'll try to make it even more apparent using just white noise. Now, modulation adds pitch modulation to the reverb, and there are other reverbs that does it. EOS is one of them, and in EOS I usually uses this modulation to smoothen out the tail and get kind of a chorusy feel in the reverb tail. However, in Crystalline, the pitching effect can be so intense that you almost get this wobbly sensation instead. And it works really well with the type of music that I produce nowadays, like cyberpunk music and synthwave and stuff like that. And so if any of my viewers are into that stuff, I think you might enjoy how the modulation sounds in this one. And lastly, we get to the massive elephant with the broom, the shimmer control. What does this do? Well, this is that second thing in this reverb that deals with high frequencies. You see, it takes the higher frequencies and it slows them down. It basically slows down the decay time for the higher frequencies. And this happens independently from the actual tail time setting. So if you've got this one short and you've got shimmer on, you might still hear high frequencies still decaying after the kind of main reverb tail has ended. Alright, so the way that this control works, when you pull it all the way down, it's in its off state, so no shimmer effect is on. And when you pull it up, you can choose a cutoff point of either 2 kilohertz, 4 kilohertz, and 8 kilohertz. And then you can set up the decay length with these multipliers. This is something new. I haven't really seen this in any iOS reverb. So this is a really nice addition. I'm telling you, there's something special in each one of these sections, and the cleanup section is no different because the sides thing in here does something special. Well, we'll get to that. And in here we have 3 controls: damping, sides, and gate. And the damping control is basically a dual filter that allows you to remove high frequencies and or low frequencies. Next is the sides controller, and this is a high-pass filter, but it's not a normal high-pass filter in that it just removes some low-frequency information. It actually does it in this stereo field while keeping the mono information intact. It's like having a little engineer stuck inside your reverb, mid-siding the lower end of your vocals to keep the vocal spectrum clear and intact in the stereo field, which makes it sound wider at the same time. Now, the last control in the cleanup section is the gate control. And if you're into 80s gated snares, well, this is the controller you want. Here you can control the threshold and the release time. Now, before we leave the cleanup section, I just want to highlight that these two buttons here, damping and gate, they have two parameters and the button is actually split down the middle. So if you want to control the parameter on the left, you tap down and drag up and down on the left side of the button. And if you want to control the parameter on the right, you tap down and drag up and down on the right side of the button. So we've finally come to the Sapeshepson? Vad fan håller jag på med? Lastly, we've come to the shape section, and it's got three controls once again: tone, smoothing, and transients. And I can tell you right now that the true highlight of the shape section here is the transient control, but we're gonna start with the tone, which is a tilt EQ that allows you to very quickly shift the reverb sound from a brighter to a darker mode, or the other way around. Now, the smoothing control is also a type of filtering. However, this one has a specially customized EQ curve that was made to address frequency areas that tend to make reverb sound kind of harsh, like a resonanty and sharpy. Resonanty, sharpy, yeah, those are words. So by increasing smoothing, you're reducing harshness and you're making the reverb sound more mellow. Lastly, we have that highlight controller, which is the transients one. And this one is interesting because it lets you create either splashy, dense sounds or light, airy, more smoothed out sounds. And with that, we've gone through all of the features of Crystalline. My final thoughts on Crystalline. Do I recommend it? Of course I do. And a lot of people might back away from it because of its, higher price. Is it worth it? Well, I certainly thought so because I purchased it instantly when it came out. I've been waiting for Baby Audio to put all of their other plugins over to iOS because they're really, really, really good. I would say that Crystalline has that professional, pristine sound to it, and I would put it in the same tier as FabFilter's Pro R. Now, granted, there's a lot more filtering to be done inside Pro R, and if you compare these two, they're very different too, because there's stuff that Crystalline does that FabFilter doesn't. And on top of it, Crystalline does stuff that I haven't seen other reverbs do either. So, I mean, it brings something new to the table, something new and interesting, and if you are a sound designer like myself, you are going to be interested in this plugin, and I think you will have a lot of fun with Crystalline. Go grab it from the link down below in the pinned comment. Now, if you like this video and you want to support the work that I do here on YouTube, then why don't you hit that like button, because it is immensely helpful. Now, if you on the other side don't want to see me succeed, you hate my guts for some contrived reason, even though you've never met me and you don't know me, and you just cannot stand the sound of my voice, something I find to be extremely hilarious to think of, then boy, do I have a deal for you. Without any charge, no subscription fees, you can just hit that dislike button as many times as you want in perpetuity to the actual heat death of the universe itself. It is a way for you to eternally show your inaffection towards me, and it also tells YouTube that my videos are being interacted with. Now, if you want to support me in a financial way, send me a $5 over at PayPal or check out my Patreon. And if you don't want to do that, you can buy some of my music. You can find a link to all of these social network places where I'm at, including the app link to Crystalline down below in the pinned comment. And if you don't want to do any of it, that's fine too. And as usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.